In the last lecture, we did the initial setup and now we are good to create our first Lightning component. For that, we have to go to Developer Console. So click on this gear icon and over here select Developer Console. It opens a separate window. What I generally follow is I copy this URL and close this separate window. In a new tab, I paste the URL and work in the same window. Now to create our Lightning component, go to File, New, Lightning component and give it a name. So I have given it a name. Description is optional. Let's write something in the description box as well. Fine. Now below this description box, there are some optional configuration for your Lightning component. So suppose I want to use this Lightning component at Lightning tab. We'll see that later. But if we want to use that for Lightning tab, then I need to select this configuration so that my component can implement the required interface. So for now, let me select all 5 of them: Lightning tab, Lightning page, record page, community page and quick action. Fine. Now I'm going to click on the submit button. Now it has created my first Lightning component. Over here, I can write my markup. Now if I want to open the Lightning component once again, I need to go to Open Lightning Resource. So whatever Lightning resources you create, whether it is Lightning component, Lightning application, Lightning event, Lightning token, you'll find it over here. So next time when you come to Developer Console, go to Open Lightning Resource and open your required Lightning component. So select your Lightning component and click on Open Selected. Fine. So the description that we provided will appear over here. So this is the description for the Lightning component, and just below it, it shows that the action bar for the Lightning component is in the right hand side. So this is the action bar in the right hand side. This action bar has a bundle. This bundle is called as components bundle. This bundle is called as component bundle. This bundle has total 8 resources, and out of these 8 resources, which are component, controller, helper, style, documentation, render, design and SVG, the first 4 resources are very important. So if I write the first 4 resources over here, first one is component, second one controller, helper, then style. Component resource is used to write markup. So we know that using HTML, which is a markup language, we create our UI, right? So over here we use Lightning tags. We can also use HTML tags, and with the help of that we create our UI. So let's say that we have created one UI, and this UI has a submit button. So the tag for adding this submit button will be defined in this component resource. Now next, when the user interacts with the UI, let's say user clicks on this submit button. So on click of this submit button, which is basically an event, I should say on click event. So when any such event occurs, we need to call a function. This function is basically a JavaScript function, and this JavaScript function is defined in the controller. So we use controller to write JavaScript functions, which can be called by an event at the UI level. Now this on click is basically called as the browser event. There are many other events. There are many other Lightning events like component event, application event and navigation event. So there are other events, and within the lifespan of the component, there are some other events which comes in picture. So we'll talk about it later, and those events are also good enough to call any function defined in the controller, in the client side controller. Okay. Same thing is true for helper resource. In helper resource as well, we define JavaScript function and they can be called whenever any event occurs. But there is a good difference between controller and the helper. Helper is basically a kind of utility class. Okay, so here we define those functions which we use for n number of times in our project, which we have to call for n number of times. So we write or we define them once in the helper and you can use it or you can call it for n number of times. We'll see that later in the course. Next comes the style resource, and we use a style resource to write CSS. So here you basically define your classes and use them in the markup. There are other 4 resources: documentation, render, design, and SVG, and we will talk about them later in the course. First, we will focus on these 4. So now let's get back to the component resource, and over here let me just rearrange this so that you can see all the text. Alright, so I have just rearranged it, and here you can see one aura component tag. So this is the outermost tag in any lightning component. Whenever you create any lightning component, you'll find this aura component tag. So this is the outermost tag, and within this comes your markup. Now this aura component tag has some attributes, and in this component right now we have one implements attribute. This implements attribute defines what interface can actually use your component. So until and unless you do not expose your lightning component to other interfaces, they won't be able to use it. So for example, you want your lightning component to be used in the community for community pages. In that case, you must write this line: force community available for all page types. Only then this component will be visible at the community level. And in the same way, if you want to use your lightning component in the lightning pages, then you have to use this flexi page available for all page types line. So you remember when we created this lightning component there, when you create any lightning component there, we have options to choose the interfaces where we want to use this component. So if you choose it from here at the time of creating a component, that will be very well reflected over here in the implement attribute. Okay, so we are clear with the implement attribute. Now the next one is the access. So by default it is global, and then within this aura component you can write your markup. So let's say I define a div tag. Within div tag there is a paragraph, and here I write, hello friends, welcome to this course on lightning components. So now when I save this course, here you can see that there is an asterisk mark coming up which shows that this component is not yet saved. When I press Ctrl S, it will save my changes and my component is now saved. So for now I have used very simple HTML tags, and I want to preview whatever I have done. I want to preview it because I know this is the markup and it sets the user interface. So I want to preview it. Now how to do that? How to preview your lightning component? For that we use lightning app. In lightning app you can call n number of lightning components, like lightning component 1, lightning component 2, lightning component 3, and you can call all these lightning components in one single lightning app. So this Lightning app basically works like a container, and within this container there are number of Lightning components, and based on the situation you render component 1, component 2, component 3, or all three of them. So now let us see how to create this Lightning app. So for now we have one Lightning component, that is welcome to Lightning, and let's see how to create a Lightning app, and within this Lightning app how can I call this welcome to Lightning component. So I will create one app with the name pa app. Fine, let us do that in the next lecture.